Welcome to No Broken Legs. I am Evan Belfiore. Joining me on the phone is Jimmy Champ. Jimmy, how are you tonight?
Man, I'm feeling funky like a monkey, ready to talk some more AFC football.
Absolutely, and as you prefaced, we have covered the AFC North, we just covered the AFC East, and we are now covering the AFC South. Jimmy, we mentioned in our AFC East podcast, we think this is in contention for the worst division in football. Is it the worst division in football?
Yes. I say that the NFC South is going to be kind of weird, but I think there's still good talent there. And I think the NFC East is probably the most... There aren't any great teams, but I think all four teams in the NFC East are going to play decent football. I think this division is going to play the worst football.
Yeah, I agree. And let's just, we'll start out with the Tennessee Titans. I think they're going to win this division. Do you think they're going to win the division, Jimmy?
Well, I was very much aboard the Jacksonville Jaguars hype train. And then I've watched them play 2 preseason games, and my boy Travis Etienne now out for the season. I thought he was going to be a big part of the offense. So I am going to say that, yes, the Tennessee Titans are going to win this division.
Okay, well, Vegas agrees with you because they are minus 106 to win the South. Nobody believes in them beyond that. To win the Super Bowl, they're plus 2,800. To win the AFC East, they're plus 1,300. And their over-under sits at 9.
They're going to win more than 9 games.
I don't see any way they don't win more than 9 games. They're going to go at least 4-2 against their own division, and that's basically halfway there.
Yeah, they're and then they've got games against some pretty bad teams in the AFC East. So
I didn't even bother looking up Ryan Tannehill player props because if you're going to bet on Ryan Tannehill, I don't want any part of that. Do you think? What do you think happens with Ryan Tannehill as their quarterback?
Well, if you're a Tennessee Titans fan and you're a Ryan Tannehill fan for any reason, you might want to go ahead and skip ahead about 5 minutes on this podcast. So here's what I think about Ryan Tannehill. I love a comeback story. I love, plain and simple, Fitzmagic is one of my favorite quarterbacks of my adult lifetime. I love him going to different teams, reinventing himself, playing a little different, having some great games and some stinker games every year. I love what Ryan Tannehill's been able to do. He had a bad situation in Miami. He got his opportunity in Tennessee. He's played really well. But I feel like part of the reason he played really well is the offensive coordinator in Tennessee did an amazing job at accentuating what he did well and hiding what he did poorly. One thing he does really well is turn around and give the ball to Derrick Henry.
he did. That's actually a really good thing to do, though.
And I feel like it's going to be like anything else, man. When you get a new toy, you want to play with it. I feel like this team is going to get away from their offensive identity. I feel like because of the addition of Julio, they are going to try to throw the ball more. They're not going to have as much deception. And I don't think Ryan Tannehill, like a lot of people project Ryan Tannehill as a top 10 quarterback in real life and in fantasy football. Most people that talk about this like we do, they have Ryan Tannehill ahead of Baker Mayfield in every single way.
Yeah, and all of those people are wrong.
And I completely agree with you. And I feel like you're insane if you thought the way to better this team was to throw the football more. Like if you wanted to add another running back to limit Derrick Henry's carries, that I would have understood. But I watched you give up 48 points to some pretty bad offenses. They needed to get better on defense, and they didn't really do that. Instead, they went out and got a weapon that I don't really think they needed. And I think they're going to win the division because the division is really bad, and their out-of-division games are pretty good. And then I think I'm going to be able to put a lot of money in my kids' college funds by betting against them in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think that's the play. So, Derrick Henry, plus 350 to lead the league in rushing.
See, I won't be making that bet because I feel like because of the addition of Julio Jones, he's going to lose carries, and we know about Derrick Henry. He's proven it that he gets better the more carries he gets. He wears down defenses. I don't think he's going to get enough touches to have more rushing yards than some of the guys like Dalvin Cook that are out there. In my opinion, I would not bet that. I would not make that bet because I just don't think he's going to get the carries to lead the league in rushing this year.
I agree. He's plus 400 to have the most touchdowns. That's another one that scares me off because of the addition of Julio and just wanting to throw the ball more. His season numbers, his over-under for rushing is 1,575 yards, which I just double-checked because it made my brain hurt to think that he's not going to get 100 yards a game, so I love the over on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And his touchdown over-under is 13.5.
Yeah, I would probably – both of those bets are no-brainers for sure.
Yeah, I think he puts up some big numbers this year. A.J. Brown's over-under for receiving yards is 1,200.5. I still kind of like that even with Julio on the roster.
I do too. I would, because we've seen what he can do after the catch, what he can do down the field. I would take that. Yeah, I would.
Yeah, and they're going to run. He's a guy that they're going to run 4 to 6 plays for every game. Like that's just in the playbook. He's going to touch the ball X number of times.
Yep.
I don't really have anything else to say about the Titans. They're going to win the division. They're going to be the weakest of the 4 division winners. That's what everybody's going to say. And, maybe they get lucky and get a good matchup in round 1, but they're not beating one of the better teams.
Yeah, but I don't think not, in my opinion, not only are they going to be the weakest division winner, I don't think they're going to be better than the wild card teams.
I think that's fair, especially when you look at the second best teams in the AFC East, the AFC North. I don't know if but we can talk when we talk about the AFC West, we can talk about the Chargers, but right there we've kind of already have them as the 5th, 6th best team in the league at best.
Yeah, and there's certainly
in the conference.
There's always a little range of outcome. There's definitely a range of outcomes where the Chargers are a better team than the Titans.
That's possible. I think it's definitely possible that the Chargers are better. But I think the Titans could be better too.
They're bad on defense, and when we saw what happened last year in games, you could go to the Browns game. Like you saw what happened when they got down in games, and there was no reason to have Derrick Henry on the field. They had to just throw the ball. They could not sustain drives. They could not score points that way. Nothing's changed. I don't believe the addition of Julio makes that any different. And I just wish Deshaun Watson wouldn't have gotten the trouble he did. I wish the Colts would be better than they were so I could pick some other team to win this division.
Well, you mentioned the Colts, and these were some numbers that really kind of made my brain hurt. The Colts have the Super Bowl. Their Super Bowl odds are plus 3,300. They're plus 1,600 to win the AFC. They're plus 140 to win the AFC South. And they have the same over-under as the Titans at 9. Jimmy, I'm not sure this team's winning 7 games. What am I missing?
I don't know. I'm with you. I have them in that 5 to 7 win range, but we're out on a lot of their key pieces. If you listened to us at all last year, whether it was talking about regular season football or fantasy football, I am in love with Jonathan Daggum Taylor. But there are pieces of this Colts team that have to be better that I don't think have gotten good enough. And the quarterback situation, who the hell knows? I'm still confused how a guy had an injury that was going to keep him out 12 weeks is now only 4 weeks. And he's just going to be fully healthy. I don't get how that happens. But no, I don't have them winning 9 games. But I think that comes back to the odds makers not believing the Titans are that much better than the Colts.
But they are.
True.
I don't like what are we basing the Colts, why is the Colts over under at 9? What have they done to warrant that?
Well, because I'm sure the odds makers look at it and say, well, you've got 4 wins. You've got 4 wins off the rip against the Texans and the Jaguars. There's a very strong chance that they beat both the Jets and the Dolphins. So that puts you at 6. Maybe you beat the Bengals. So that puts you at 7.
But I don't think they're going to win all those games.
I agree with you. I completely agree with you. But we've been down on the Colts for 2 years.
And we've been right the whole time.
Kudos to us. Kudos to us. No, I would not. I would be betting the under on 9 wins. I don't see them getting to 9 wins.
Yeah, I think they're an under. And you can still find this at 9.5 in some places. So that's a big half point if you can find it.
Yeah, absolutely. Because they're damn sure not getting to 10.
No.
Maybe they could get to 9. They're damn sure not getting to 10.
So here are the numbers that Jonathan Daggum Taylor put up last year. With 232 rushes in 15 games, he had 1,169 yards with 11 touchdowns. His over-under is 1,250.5 yards, and his over-under for touchdowns is 11.5. I like both those to hit over.
Yeah, I will be betting both of those.
I think he's going to end up getting a lot of carries. I think he may wind up in the 350 range just because there's so much uncertainty with their quarterback. The only thing that may hurt him is they may just not be in games, and he may lose carries in the second halves.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct there. I would definitely say if you believe that the Colts are going to get into that 9 to 11 win range, then that means Jonathan Daggum Taylor has had a hell of a season. So you better be betting the Jonathan Taylor overs.
And I'll reference the previous podcast about the AFC East. I feel like the Colts are a worse version of Miami.
Yeah, that's fair. I think that's very fair.
I think they're in the middle, but I think they're in the lower middle.
Are we to the point yet where we're allowed to talk about how Frank Reich isn't that good of a head coach?
I believe we were talking about how Frank Reich isn't that good of a head coach last year.
Well, we were, but I don't know if it's became socially acceptable yet.
I don't know. I mean, maybe you're right. Maybe they do end up winning 10 or 11 games and then they lose in the first round of the playoffs again. Maybe that's enough to keep those detractors at bay. But you gotta start winning. You gotta do something, and they haven't really done anything. Especially when you look at the rest of the conference, they're not better than the Chiefs. The only way they're getting better than the Chiefs is with significant upgrades across their roster.
Right. I mean, and it's weird because we hear all this talk about how great the general manager and the front office is for the Colts, but they can't build a team that's better than the Titans, who nobody talks about their front office. And, Pagano got killed for never being able to really beat Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, but Frank Reich's getting all the congratulations for his participation trophies.
Can I offer a hypothesis on that?
Absolutely.
I think it has something to do with the combine being held in Indianapolis.
That's fair.
And everybody spends time in Indianapolis, or before COVID, they were spending time in Indianapolis, and they all talked about how much they loved Indianapolis as a home for that. And then he was the offensive coordinator for the Eagles when they win the Super Bowl, which apparently gives you a pass if you're not Eric Bieniemy, but that's a whole nother story. I don't know what we're looking at to say Frank Reich's one of the best coaches in the league. Yeah, I don't see the results. I don't see the team being that good, and I don't see the team being that good this year.
We are in agreement on that.
Well, another team that we'll both agree isn't going to be good this year is the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Aww.
They are plus 12,500 to win the Super Bowl.
Cool.
Plus 5,000 to win the AFC, which is actually kind of low. They are plus 750 to win the AFC South, which I know you thought was a juicy bet once upon a time.
I'm still probably going to bet it, too.
It's worth it as bad as this division is. I mean, what happens if Derrick Henry goes down?
Right. Yeah.
Jacksonville could be better than the Colts and Texans, just as is. But their over-under sits at 6.5, Jimmy. They have Trevor Lawrence is their brand new quarterback. He was officially named the starter after a ridiculous nonsense competition in which they tried to inflate the value of Jesus, I've forgotten his name. That's how irrelevant he is.
How dare you forget Minshew Mania?
Oh, Gordon Minshew. Yeah, the guy that people compare to Baker Mayfield, except for the fact that he doesn't have the arm strength, he doesn't have the talent, and he doesn't have the leadership. But, they both had weird hair and a mustache once.
Right, right.
Do the Jacksonville Jaguars win more than 6.5 games?
So I absolutely, like, a month ago, when we were starting to plan out these podcasts, I completely planned on saying the Jacksonville Jaguars were going to win this division. There are actually a lot of pieces on their roster, offensive and defensive, that I like. I know a lot of people have questions about Urban Meyer. They have the youngest roster in the league. I believe Urban is going to be able to touch a lot of those guys. A lot of those guys probably have some form of connection to some player who's played for Urban at Ohio State, and there's going to be a respect value there. I really thought this team could be good. They've been playing their starting offensive linemen in the preseason, and their quarterbacks are running for their lives. Trevor has looked okay, but you can also tell he's not used to having pockets just disappear like what is happening. I like a couple of their wide receivers. I thought the combination of James Robinson and Travis Etienne were going to be excellent. That's not going to happen now because of Etienne's injury. They have some pieces on defense. I have them winning like 4 games now. It doesn't look good.
No, they were 1-15 last year. Their plus minus was 186. Or sorry, minus 186. Like they gave up 186 more points, so they were outscored by more than 10 points a game.
Yeah,
we can talk about what they added, but it's not enough. This team stinks. This roster stinks, and I don't like what I've seen from Urban Meyer so far. I just think there's been the whole Tebow fiasco was nonsense from the beginning. The issue with the strength coach, these are little things. But we, as Cleveland fans, have seen the little things that get out are a prelude to the bigger things that are happening behind the scenes.
Right.
I don't know. I don't know how this works from what I've seen, unless they're significantly better, like out of the blue. But I just don't see that happening. I just don't think they're very good.
Oh, I agree. Like I said, it's been bad. Like I've watched a lot of Jacksonville Jaguars preseason football so far because I was very optimistic. I was very curious. Like I want to see Urban succeed. Like I want to see that system with the speed, and I want to see it work. And I feel like the youth of the roster has an opportunity, and it's looked bad. It's looked poor. It's looked like, dude, like if this is what I hope you're like holding back. Because if this is what you're scripting to be successful, I'm worried for you.
They look like the Browns did 5 years ago.
Yeah, that's absolutely fair. And like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if. No, I can't even say that. I want to say I wouldn't be surprised if they won 8 games, but I would be at this point. I think they're in that 4-win range. They're one of the 3 worst teams in the AFC. It's going to be a rough season for the Jaguars.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be rough. Like, I actually think the team we're going to talk about next is better than Jacksonville with what they have going on at quarterback, and that's insane.
Well, Vegas does not agree with you because they are plus 25,000 to win the Super Bowl, plus 15,000 to win the AFC, and plus 3,000 to win the AFC South. Their over-under sits at 4.5. I'm taking the under. This team's an even bigger mess than the Jacksonville Jaguars are, and Houston has, really just grabbed a hold of that most dysfunctional team crown that the Browns tossed aside, and they've just wrapped themselves around it.
Yeah. I mean that's fair. I will probably win. I could actually see them winning 5 games.
Wow. Who's going to play quarterback for them? Because it's not going to be Deshaun Watson.
Well, I know this is a conversation me and you have had on air and off air. I believe Tyrod Taylor is a acceptable quarterback. We differ in that. The gentleman that they have backing up Tyrod has actually looked really good as well. So I obviously, like, if you don't have Deshaun Watson, it doesn't really matter because you've lost the top 5 talent at the position. But I think what I've seen from their play calling, Philip Lindsay and Mark Ingram are going to get 87 touches a game. And they're just going to run the ball up the middle of the field, and then they're going to run a play action pass and hope somebody catches it. They still have a little bit of talent here and there on defense. It actually seems like a calming presence in their locker room has been Lovie Smith. As a team, they've actually bonded around his COVID beard. He's grown out an amazing COVID beard, and they've taken like votes on whether or not he should shave it or not. It's kind of crazy, but they are, I'm sure, in-house everything with Deshaun has them frazzled, has them in a bad place, but they look like they're at least fairly cohesive to me in their preseason games. And I get it's preseason, it's guys battling for roster spots, whatever. To me, they've looked better than Jacksonville. They've looked better than Cincinnati. They've looked better than the Jets. We know winning preseason games doesn't matter, but when you have the outside noises, you're the most dysfunctional team in the NFL, and you can put that aside to win preseason games. I think it does matter a little bit. They're not going to be great, but I could see that I think the 3 to 5 win window is where they are. They're not going to beat any good teams, but they may be just good enough to beat like the 5 bad teams that they get to play. So that's how I feel about the Texans.
I don't think Tyrod Taylor's any good, so I decided to look up his stats, and it pretty much he's not really that good. He doesn't do enough. The last time he got significant playing time was before he got hurt and Baker took over for him. In that season, he had started 3 games, 49% accuracy. Yay, he filled in a little bit here and there. I think they're hoping that Tyrod Taylor can do more than he can.
That's fair, but I'm not gonna. I will give the kid. I will give the kid credit. He has looked very good in his 2 preseason games, and we know it's preseason and it only matters so much. But he has looked good. He's been very accurate. He's done what he needs to do, and like I said, I like Philip Lindsay and Mark Ingram. I still like Brandon Cooks. They have a young tight end named Jordan Akins who's pretty good. I think they'll be able to move the ball some. They're not going to light the world on fire, but I think if they're coached well and they don't beat themselves, they will be able to beat some other bad teams. I also think they're probably going to lose a few games 50-0.
Yeah, they went 4-12 last year. Gave up 80 more points than they scored. I see pretty much the same thing. Any final thoughts here on this just dreadful AFC South division?
Not really. Like I said, I'm gonna watch a lot of Titans and Colts football just to be able to get on Twitter and attack their fans and tell them that I was right and they were wrong.
I love it. Absolutely love it.
I don't, like I said, just structurally, I don't understand how you add a piece on your offense that's going to take balls away from Derrick Henry, who couldn't be any clearer than being like if this was Julio Jones in his early prime Atlanta Falcons days, you'd have a case. This Julio Jones, I don't believe equals what you can get with Derrick Henry. And I don't understand it. I don't understand the love for Ryan Tannehill. I don't get it. For me, I have a hard time. There's a lot of people that have Tannehill on that outskirts of top 10 quarterback in the league, and I just don't have it that way. Like I said, I am sad for Travis Etienne. I thought he was going to have a real chance at Rookie of the Year. I thought he was going to get a ton of targets, a ton of touches. So I'm sad. I'm sad that happened. But this division is going to be a train wreck. There could be this is a division that could give you one of their division games could be a 3-3 tie. I think that's the kind of division this is. There's not another division that has 3 poor teams and 1 team that isn't great. Like I don't think the Titans are great. They're going to win the division. They're going to go to the playoffs, and I don't think they're going to win a game. Like I don't have any love for this division, and it's sad because like 3 or 4 years ago, this was a really good division, and I mean they were one. If Blake Bortles could have put another yard on that pass, they're a play away from the Super Bowl.
Well, Jacksonville had ample opportunity to upgrade at quarterback, and they kept going with Blake Bortles. So that's why we talk about them as a team that didn't achieve the greatness that they may have been able to.
Yep. So, but yeah, I'm not, like I said, this will be a division, a team that we will be betting against a lot week to week. Where we're gonna look at spreads and go, really, that many points? Well, I see it. They're not going to cover that. So it's going to be a hard division. You're fans of these teams, other than Tennessee. It's going to be hard to watch, and you Titans fans, you're going to be attacking me for a while, but I'll get my last laugh. I'm sure of it.
Absolutely, and that will wrap up our preview of the AFC South. Next up will be the AFC West, and then we will begin talking about the NFC teams. Jimmy, thank you for joining me this evening.
No place I'd rather be, brother.
All right, for Jimmy Champ, I am Evan Belfiore. Thank you for listening to No Broken Legs.
Every action has a repercussion. Miracle bullets don't make me get the bussin'.